Let's go through my step-by-step process to try and determine whether a short-term rental is going to be profitable or not.
Welcome to the Brand and Market Podcast, the show for short-term rental owners who want to turn their listings into legacies. I'm your host, Allie Haney, owner and co-host of multiple properties and founder of Brand and Market, where we help Airbnb hosts and short-term rental investors build intentional brands, smart marketing systems, and guest experiences that actually move the needle. Each week, I share practical strategies, real-life stories, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you attract the right guests, increase bookings, and run your rental like a business, so you too can be the best in your brand and your market. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, guys. I have some exciting updates today. I actually just got back from a trip to Montana. It was rather spur of the moment type of trip, but it was a work trip. So my aunt had mentioned a few weeks ago when we were all together for my cousin's homecoming from the Marine Corps, his deployment, that she was thinking about potentially looking at Montana for an investment property that she was hoping to run as a short-term rental. She wanted to be able to enjoy it herself while also being able to bring in some income from it. So she asked me to accompany her on the trip, and I was super duper excited because Montana, if you guys remember, I mentioned that a couple weeks ago saying that Caleb and I always wanted to buy a short-term rental in Montana. And so when she mentioned that she wanted to buy there as well, I was like, all right, let's make it happen. So I just got back earlier this afternoon, actually, from that trip. It was a very quick trip. Flew out on a Tuesday, looked at houses Wednesday, flew back on Thursday. It was a great trip. I had never been to Montana before. It was everything they said it was going to be and more. Big Sky is very accurate. As soon as I landed in Kalispell, Montana, we were looking in the Flathead Lake region. It was just absolutely breathtaking. The scenery from the mountains to the lake to the evergreen trees. Like, it was just a really beautiful, like, overall color palette. Actually, if you're watching on YouTube, the color palette was very similar to like my calendars here with the blues of the and teals of the lake as well. So if you've never seen Flathead Lake, you should look it up. It is absolutely like crystal clear water, and it is super just breathtaking and unique. So I will have more updates on that soon. I actually have asked my aunt to come onto an episode with me so that she can walk through what it looks like from her perspective too, because she's always done, for the vast majority of her investments, long-term rentals and some commercial property, but has never ventured into my world of the short-term rental realm. And so I thought it'd be really cool to get her just perspective on that. So stay tuned for that episode. Next up, I want to talk about my Wednesday client win. I am so excited for Alexis Gindy, the owner of Victoria House. But she is so much more than an owner. She is the artist, the designer, the visionary behind Victoria House, which is a boutique stay in Sevierville, Tennessee, downtown, like legit downtown Sevierville. They have been working on restoring her grandmother's old boarding house that was built in 1921 for over 2 years now. So now it consists of 5 different suites. 2 of those suites are 1 bed, 1 bath, and then 3 of those suites are 2 bed, 2 bath with bunks. And they are each individually themed something out of this world. The attention to detail in Alexis's design is absolutely impeccable. I think I'm a detailed person. She took detailed to the absolute next level in every aspect of this design. Like I said, each suite has a theme. So one of them is Love is Like a Butterfly, themed after the Dolly Parton song. So it is color drenched pink. There are butterflies in the suite. There's a beautiful dogwood mural that looks out over into the actual dogwood tree that's on property. Oh, I'm going to test all my knowledge, see how well I know it. The second one is the Tennessee suite. And so that is UT themed. She has a bright orange refrigerator in there. She has a Peyton Manning signed jersey in the tile work in the bathroom floor. She actually has 1921, which was the year that the building was built, in like tiled into the floor. It is absolutely incredible. And that one is ADA accessible as well. So she is very, very adamant on being able to serve every audience, every guest. So she has thought of everything. I can assure you that. The next one is the Smokies Suite. So that is themed all around the Smoky Mountains, the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. There's a lot of local artwork in there. There is a coffee table that looks like it's like a glass top coffee table with a bear holding up the glass. It is so cute. And then each individual each individual suite also has a mural. I mentioned the Dogwood one and the Love is Like a Butterfly suite. There is a UT band mural in the Tennessee suite, a Smoky Mountain mural, which is like a bear and a turtle. They're all like sitting around a campfire. It's really cute in the Smoky suite. Next up is the Coat of Many Colors, another Dolly Parton, nod to Dolly Parton. There's a lot of brand story wrapped into this property. And I might even do a full episode on the Victoria House brand and all of the brand stories that Alexis has interwoven throughout the design of the project. But for now, I'm just going to give you the topical kind of introduction to the property. So the Coat of Many Colors, it has a mural of young Dolly Parton in her coat of many colors singing into a tin can that is on top of a broomstick in the middle of downtown Sevierville. Last but not least is the Songbird Suite. And I don't even know if I can really pick a favorite one because I love specific parts about each one of them. But I do love that this one has both Dolly and Elvis. There's this piece of artwork called the Four Dollies from a local artist in one of the bedrooms in there. And then there is also a lot of the furniture and decor has been either shopped or thrifted from local artists in local shops and or flipped by Alexis herself. So she had purchased this older desk, like antique desk, and made it into a pink Cadillac desk for the Elvis themed bedroom in the Songbird Suite. So all of that to say, the Wednesday win is that 3 of the suites are live. They are live. They are ready for booking, and the direct booking site that we designed is up as well. I'm going to link it in the show notes. She has some openings for the summer, and I would love for you guys to go just check it out, see what the Victoria House has to offer. And if you are looking for a really quaint, unique boutique stay in downtown Sevierville that is walkable to literally any restaurant or event that they might be having downtown, you absolutely need to stay at Victoria House. It is going to be one of a kind. I wanted to talk today about trying to figure out whether or not an investment would be profitable or not. I have been a member of this group called Action Academy. It's a mastermind, it has like an education portion to it, a networking portion to it. Multiple of the like connection calls that I've had with people there have been like, I have this house that like I purchased as my primary residence, but I've gotten relocated either for work or just, because we didn't want to, like, we outgrew our starter home, what have you. And like, I'm just curious if I should sell it or if I should potentially turn it into a short-term rental or a mid-term rental, keep it as a long-term rental. What should I do? I can't necessarily speak to mid-term or long-term rentals. I specialize in short-term rentals, but I always try to lead like with service first, right? Or value first. And I will say, hey, let me run a little analysis on your property just to see what the comps in the area are doing based off of your address and every other, all the other things that you've got going on there. So I always try to run a quick analysis, and I want to walk you through today on how exactly I do that to get some rough numbers as I do go through the research process. This is in fact what I did for the Montana properties that we went to go look at. But since I already mentioned Sevierville, I was going to go ahead and pick one from Sevierville to just do live. And I don't even know if this is going to work because I was planning on trying to share my screen. So let me figure that out. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so for the sake of this episode, I'm going to talk through it, but you guys might hear me typing or moving my mouse around in the background because, like I said, I'm going to screen record. And so if you watch this on YouTube, you should be able to follow along with me. Okay, so this is the property in question. It is in Sevierville. Let me give you the specs of it. It is 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,830 square feet on just over an acre, 1.14 acres. It's new construction, so we don't technically have, there's no way that this has been run as a short-term rental before. However, it looks like in the description, it did mention some revenue figures. So let's see. It says this property is being sold for fully turnkey, professionally designed and outfitted, ready to enjoy from day one. or immediately placed on a rental program. Projected rental income $150,000 to $175,000 annually with the premium amenities that are already outfitted in this home. Whether you're looking for a high yield investment, a luxury second home, or both, this property delivers the best of the best in the Smoky Mountains. So I want to caveat this with I've never really thought about buying in Gatlinburg or Sevierville because it is a pretty saturated market. That means basically in order to differentiate yourself, you're going to have to figure out what the brand is, what the brand story is going to be so that you can market it outside of just Airbnb. Because when someone when someone searches an Airbnb Gatlinburg, Tennessee or Sevierville, Tennessee, they're going to be brought back with a lot of properties looking pretty similar. They all, for the most part, have a cabin vibe. There's going to be some sort of bare decor. There's definitely going to be a hot tub, and it's probably not going to be professionally designed. So what are some ways that you can stand out? You can stand out by having a kick-ass brand, by incorporating that kick-ass brand with professional interior design. You can stand out by all of those plus an amenity stack that is very attractive. So you just have to find a way to differentiate yourself. You guys have heard me talk about the offer sheet daily before, which is an email that I receive every single day with anywhere between like 9 and 15-ish different properties all across the United States that could potentially be short-term rentals. Obviously, you have to do your own due diligence and you have to do your own research. So if ever I find one that I think is particularly interesting, like Luna, which is where I found that one, I go through and I run my own analysis of it. And this is exactly how I do it. And all that to say, this listing was on that email. So that's where I picked this up from. So first, I'm going to go to AirDNA. This is the first place that I start. And if I have a specific address, then I go ahead and type that specific address in. I don't type in just the market because first I want to look at the address and then see how it compares to the market. It populates immediately. Because it's new construction, it looks like it still is registering as just raw land, but I can adjust it so that it says 4-bed, 3-bath, let's say 10 guests. Because I'm thinking in the pictures, it's like 3 regular bedrooms and then 1 bunk room, and that's going to have 4. So yeah, like 10 guests. So immediately right off the bat, I see projected revenue, $82,000, occupancy, 55%, and ADR, $407. Okay. That sounds low compared to what it wrote on the listing, right? The listing said $150 to $175 gross annually. However, this does not at the moment take into account all of the amenities that this property is going to have. And I didn't even tell you about the amenities that this property has, but some of the things that it has, one is an indoor swimming pool. How cool is that? There's a garage door that literally like rises up so that you can then have it open air, but the swimming pool itself is inside. And then there's also a recessed hot tub in the bottom floor of the back patio. There's potentially room for an arcade, like shuffleboard, a bar, a big screen TV downstairs, or you could go movie theater route for that. So there's lots of different amenities that you can kind of take your pick on. Then, of course, I mentioned already, it has that like bunk room with 4 bunks in it, and then a full wall of windows overlooking the beautiful mountain view. It's going to be a really incredible new construction property that $82,000 annual revenue is probably not going to be super accurate. But what it does give me is, if you look down here, a few comparable properties. So let's look at this first comp. Okay, so this is where the house is, but you can see there's a house like right next door to it, right? And that house is one of our comps. It says that it brings in right at $71,000 a year. Okay, so 51% occupancy. It's available 362 days of the year. That means that it's a full-time short-term rental. The owner doesn't come for half a year and stay. And the average daily rate is $392. So now what I would do next is go and actually look at the Airbnb listing on AirDNA. It has these little icons up at the top. You can click that Airbnb signal, that Airbnb symbol, and take a look at the listing itself. Okay, what did I say? There's going to be bear decor. It's going to look like a cabin. There's going to be a hot tub. Oh my gosh, this couldn't have worked out better. I didn't even plan it like this. I'm looking through the amenities. I see the big jacuzzi tub. I see a pool table, a foosball table, a kid's bunk room, bear decor furniture, like all wood. So you can see, oh, there's a live bear. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing to have in a listing photo. Oh, and then they have some public shared amenities, probably through the HOA, which is like a public pool that people could go to, and like a little kiddie pool area as well, and a fishing pond that's catch and release. Okay, so they have some amenities. Some are private, some are not. But that house that's right next door is bringing in $71,000 and does not have the view that we have, does not have an indoor pool. It has a game room, but it's super dated, and the overall design is just, it ain't it. It blends in with everything else. Okay, now let's go back to AirDNA. I want to look at the top performing comp that it pulls for me, which is this Luxe Log Mansion with 180-degree views. Okay, so first, the main thing that I see that's different is that it has an extra bathroom and a slightly higher guest count. So that can contribute obviously to nightly rate, but their annual revenue is $146,000. Their occupancy is higher at 74%. They're available 362 days a year, so it's a full-time rental, and their average daily rate is $547. Again, I'm going to click on the Airbnb listing and take a look. Let's see. Okay, we still got the antlers and the chandelier, but this one has definitely more, bear pillows. There they are. Oh, this one has bears and eagles carved into the main beam of the house that holds everything up. So I guess that would differentiate things. But there we go, our bear comforter. I saw some amenities in here too that I wanted to mention. It has the hot tub. Ooh, it's like a 3-tier deck situation. That's pretty cool. Pool table, air hockey table, a sauna, a poker table. Okay, but still no indoor pool or anything. Okay, that's good to know. Let me see. I'm going to go back to AirDNA. I'm going to keep these numbers though. Okay, I'm going to remember 82,000 annually, 55% occupancy, and $407 a night without taking into account the hot tub or the indoor pool, the game room that we could potentially have, and the bougie design, plus the view. Look, y'all know the tagline for this podcast is turning listings into legacies. We start a short-term rental business for one of two reasons. We either really love real estate or we really love hospitality. But what if I told you that you could do both and do them both well? Lodgify is how I do that. I can run an operationally sound and therefore profitable business while also loving all my guests and leaving some margin for some unreasonable hospitality. Lodgify can help you create your own direct booking site, manage your reservations and guest messages, automate the back end of your business, and stop depending entirely on other platforms that you don't control. Lodgify helps you build your business, something sustainable, something that allows you to love on your guests, and something that helps you turn your listing into a legacy. Use my code BMPOD20 for a special discount until the end of July. That's BMPOD20 for 20% off all yearly Lodgify plans. Cheers, y'all. Next up, I am going to look at this other piece of software called BNBCalc.com. BNBCalc is really great, especially if you're looking to do something different than just buy a property. On the back end of BNBCalc, you can run an analysis based off of buying the property, renting the property, like an Airbnb arbitrage type of situation, co-host the property, or if you already own the property, you can do the analysis based off of the actual mortgage rates that you've already locked in and the equity that you may have already have in the property itself. In this case, again, we're purchasing the property. So I'm going to type in the exact address. 4-bed, 3-bath. This says that the max guest, they recommend 12. I'm still going to go 10 just to see what it spits back. I want to try and keep it as similar as possible. The purchase price is going to be the list price. I'm not planning on negotiating on the list price for new construction. Okay, first of all, it gives us a negative 5% cash on cash return. So that's kind of a red flag. Okay, gives us a score of F. Average cap rate, but cash returns are after financing are weak. Okay, so we have to take into account a couple things. Are we financing this property? Or are we paying for it in cash? Are there partners included? And how are we going to pay them out? Right now, it says that based off of the cap rate and the cash returns, it's giving this property an F. However, it is interesting that this puts us at an anticipated occupancy rate of 60%. Remember, AirDNA had 55%. So it's not super varying there, but it's still something to note. And then here it says average daily rate or ADR of 442 as compared to 407 on AirDNA. And I find this to be true for almost every single property that I analyze, is that BNBCalc hits me a little high with the revenue. AirDNA hits me a little low with the revenue, and the truth is somewhere in between those two. At least that's what I've found to be true so far. I think that we could command, actually, let me, before we jump into that, I'm going to look at some of the comps that BNBCalc gives us, because I think, let's see, wow, these other properties are making some money. Is this the same one? Did we already look at this one? 4 beds, 5 baths for 12 guests. We didn't look at this one yet, but it is relatively similar. No bears to be found yet in the interior design. They've got some board games. They've got a bunk room, arcade games, a sauna, a fire pit. So that's what I'm telling you. The Smokies is competitive. You got to have amenities out the wazoo in order to be a super competitive person in a saturated market. Or a super competitive listing, rather. Let me see if I can find one with a indoor pool. Private indoor pool. Perfect. Okay. Let's try this one. Oh, this is interesting. So the Luxlog Mansion that I found on the last one, I don't think I mentioned on AirDNA what it says it brings in, but that, remember, was my highest revenue comp. So it looks like their average annual revenue, according to AirDNA, is $146,000 a year, which is getting us closer to that 150 to 175 that they mentioned on the listing, which I'm actually surprised they wrote that on the listing. I feel like that's a little bit leading, versus that same property is pulling a slightly different amount on BNBCalc, closer to 164, 165. So I do want to mention that that is interesting and does fit in line with the comps, or excuse me, not the comps, but the listing description that they had mentioned previously. Interesting. This kind of walks you through like how much, based off of your down payment and everything, that you would be looking to like have as your like cash on cash. But I think what's really curious to me is that the 442 with the indoor pool, I think, is going to be low. So let's just slide this slider up. I think it's going to be closer to like 525-ish. And so that immediately brings our revenue at 60% occupancy up to $115,000 a year. So I don't think that's bad at all. Remember I said I do the actual address first if I have it, and then I go back and do the full market research. That's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to go to AirDNA, and I am going to just go to Sevierville in Tennessee. It's a huge submarket, huge, huge, huge. And then up here at this top bar, I'm going to go and put in as many specs as possible so that I can get as clear comps as possible. I said we have a 4-bed, 3-bath, 10 guests. We want to make sure it's the entire place. We're not doing any shared rooms. We're going to make it a house and make sure it's not an apartment or or just like a bed and breakfast type. We do have AC. We do have parking. We will have a hot tub. We will have a pool. One of the things that I also changed just to see what it would look like in terms of difference in revenue is I will run it not pet friendly first and then run it pet friendly second so that I can see what the difference in revenue might be if I decide to allow pets. We have a mountain view. Yes, we will have outdoor furniture if we were to purchase this. There's no way we couldn't. I'm going to look at all of the price tiers. I'm not going to sort it by just luxury only, but I don't want to compare us to anything below 4.8 because I know we won't get below 4.8. For the reviews count section, I always make sure that they have at least 20 reviews. That's how I know it's a legitimate rental that's been around for a while and has proven itself. I want to do at least 270 days available throughout the year. I want it to be a full-time rental. I don't care whether it pulls comps for professionally managed or owner-operated. Either one is fine. And then we're going to hit apply and see what that brings us back. Ooh, interesting. It says $75,000 a year in annual revenue, occupancy rate of 67%. And so that's a little bit higher than what they anticipated for the individual listing itself. And the annual revenue, I said, is $75K. Okay, cool. Let's see what it pulls as comps. This one, love that. It's got an indoor pool. So I feel like this one is going to be an accurate comp. Immediately, right off the bat, it says that comp with an indoor pool, a game room, a theater, and a fire pit makes $171,000 a year. It's at 93% occupancy with an ADR of $511. That's what I'm talking about. That's more like the comp that I'm looking for. Next one is a lovely indoor pool and spa cabin with a game room. Revenue $158,000 a year, 70% occupancy, but they have a higher nightly rate. And what that tells me is that the wear and tear on the property with the lower occupancy probably going with a higher nightly rate is probably going to be a little bit lower than the other one with the higher revenue, but also higher occupancy and lower ADR. Let's see. This one also has an indoor heated pool. Okay, this is great. Revenue $143,000, ADR $491, and occupancy 82%. I'm telling you, that indoor pool bumps occupancy so much higher. Although to me, I feel like it doesn't command the nightly rate that I thought maybe it would. So that part is interesting to me. Okay, I'm going to pull one really quickly just so that I can see, because this one looks like it has an indoor pool and professional design. So I want to see, oh, maybe not professional design. Well, maybe. Okay, it has the movie theater, a nice open kitchen. Even so, I still feel like the overall design for the listing one, the one that I'm like, we would be technically analyzing for an offer, is still far nicer than this. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, if you go from overview over to listings, it will also show you the active. Oh, actually, let me set one filter. I'm going to change one because right now I have it from 0 to 4 bedrooms, so that this could be pulling our revenue down because I'm being compared right now to a 1-bedroom studio cabin. So I'm going to go to 3 to 4 bedrooms and at least 2 bathrooms and see how that changes our overview. Okay, it doesn't change it a ton. It goes from $75,000 a year to $82,000 a year. Let me see the exact specs. 4 bed, 3 bath. Okay, $94,958 a year. Okay, so that's more like it to me. All right, I'm going to erase this and use these numbers instead because this is going to be more accurate based off of the specs of this property. And there's only 40 active listings that match all of the filters that I put in, which makes it a lot different than the full Sevierville inventory. Okay, so after I go through overview, I'm going to go to listings and I'm going to take a look at all these listings here. It tells me how many listings of my subset have a minimum night stay of 2 nights, 3 nights, or 4 to 6 nights. Most people have a 2-night stay minimum. It tells me the listings by cancellation policy. They mostly have a firm cancellation policy. 57% of them do. And then it also tells me a couple of different common amenities. All of these should be like the parking and the pool should be 100% based off of the filters that I already put in. I said I require these comps that you need to pull to have a pool. So that's why that looks like that. Occupancy over time. Let's look at the last I'm just going to look at 24 and 25, and then you can see here in the blue is 2026. So it looks like a pretty steady curve of our high season is going to be July at 83% occupancy, and our low season is going to be in January at 40-ish% occupancy. High season overall is going to be June, with a dip in September for back to school, but overall June to October is going to be our high season. Oh, this is a fun statistic. It tells you based off of when people stay, how long their stay can be anticipated to be. So the longest stays are 4 days, and that is in the month of June and July. The lowest stays are in February for 3 days, 3.2 days, and in January for 3.3 days. But overall, it looks like the average stay is between 3 and 4 days. Naturally, the occupancy, whichever month the occupancy is the highest, is also going to be your highest revenue month. So it looks like you can expect to bring in around $12,000 to $13,000 in the month of July because that's your highest occupancy month. And also because it's your highest occupancy month, that is when the rates are going to be most competitive. And then it also is high in June and also is high in October, right around when the leaves are changing. Here's the average daily rates. So average daily rate for 4-bed, 3-bath with a pool is $437. If you look at a luxury listing, it's closer to the $597 mark, so almost $600. Obviously, again, peaks in July. Here in the short-term rental section, it's just going to give you a quick look at all of the comps that it's already pulled. It just shows it to you in a more succinct, easy to digest visual way, so that you can see what perhaps the pool looks like or what the cover photo looks like on the Airbnb listing. One thing I love about AirDNA though is that it also gives you some for sale properties and does a very, very quick analysis here on what the projected revenue could be, including the occupancy and breaking it down by daily rate as well. For example, this one, purchase price $580,000 and anticipated revenue $91.4 per year with a 59% occupancy and $427 daily rate. So immediately that makes me like, oh, piques my interest. Maybe that could be a good deal to analyze next. Okay, but to bring it back to the original listing, I'm going to tell you one more time so you can see all of the numbers back to back to back, because I know I've thrown a lot of numbers at you this episode. First, I'm going to throw the numbers of AirDNA for the specific address. So that is anticipated at $407 nightly rate at 55% occupancy, which gives us $82,000 in gross revenue. BNBCalc gave us a $457 nightly rate at 60% occupancy for $100,000 of gross revenue. Then once I started to pull comps that actually had legitimate, like similar amenities, then AirDNA was giving me $437 a night at 62% occupancy for $94,000 of annual gross revenue. With that being said, I think that if you dive deep into the brand, into the client experience, potentially dabble in some professional design, that I do think you can use all of this information to push you higher into that projected revenue range that was on the listing description of $150 to $175, as long as you are making it a full-time rental. I hope this all makes sense. I know I threw a lot of numbers at you today, but my conclusion here is that probably the annual revenue is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $120,000 a year for the first year. That would be my very first inkling of a guess of what the revenue would be, and then have it grow after that once we get our nightly rate stabilized. And then we can also start to drive direct bookings for families that decide they love this stay so much that they can come back again and again and again. I hope this was helpful. If ever you want me to record a Loom video, basically like this of your property, if you have a specific address in mind, please let me know. I am a real person behind this. I still answer all of my DMs on Instagram and all of my emails for the most part in my email inbox. So if you have some questions about this, I would be happy to help you. Please feel free to DM me. My handle is at brandandmarket.co. That's brandandmarket.co. And if ever you want to schedule a consult call with me, I'm also here for that as well. I'll link that in the show notes so that if you want to hop on one-on-one on a call with me, I would love to learn more about your project and potentially partner together as you bring it to life. So thank you so much. Wrapping up today's episode and can't wait to chat with you all next week.
You just completed another episode of the Brand and Market Podcast. If you found this helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find this show and so that you never miss an episode. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for all the resources mentioned today. See you next Wednesday, and as always, I'm here cheering you on as you build your dream brand and business.